everyone's time. My name is Kristen Byrne, and I'm a consultant working with SANDAG on the Central Mobility Hub and Connections CMCP project, as well as the Central Mobility Hub project. A number of names I see are familiar that we've seen you from earlier meetings. So before we get started tonight, I wanted to have everybody do self-introductions just so we know everyone who is here. I'm going to go ahead and call on people so that we don't talk over one another. So just go ahead and introduce yourself and the organization you're representing. I'll start with the SANDAG folks. So April de Jesus, let's start with you.
Hi, my name is April de Jesus, and I'm the project manager for the San Diego Military Installation Resilience Project.
Okay, thanks, April. Keith Greer.
Hi there, I'm Keith Greer. I'm the principal planner in charge of our environmental compliance program.
All right, Danny Vay.
Hi, Danny Vay. I'm the project manager for the Central Mobility Hub and Connections, CMCP.
Thanks. Gia.
Good afternoon, I'm Gia Balish with the SANDAG communication team.
Jack Christensen.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jack Christensen here with the SANDAG team on the government relations team.
All right, Rachel Kennedy.
Hello, I'm Rachel Kennedy. I'm a principal planner overseeing the Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor program at SANDAG.
All right, Ruby Morales.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruby and I am an intern here at SANDAG with the Central Mobility Hub team.
Ryan Kohut.
Hi everybody, my name is Ryan Kohut. I'm a Director of Strategic Projects here at SANDAG, and I'm overseeing the overall Central Mobility Hub project.
And Sharon Humphreys.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sharon Humphreys, and I'm a principal engineer at SANDAG and the project manager for the Central Mobility Hub environmental clearance and advanced conceptual engineering.
Great. And Teddy Jackson, I think that is our last SANDAG staff person.
Thanks, Kristen. Hi, everyone. This is Teddy Jackson. I oversee communications for public outreach and marketing at SANDAG, and I'm excited to be here tonight to join you. Thank you.
Thanks, Teddy. And let's go to our partners in this project, Caltrans. So Nicola, why don't you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, Nicola Bernard, and I'm the Caltrans project manager for this CMCP.
Great. And Jose Robles?
Good evening, everyone. Jose Robles, design manager for Caltrans.
Thank you. And Hayden?
Hi, this is I'm not sure if you can see my screen. Sorry about that. Hi, this is Hayden Manning. I work in the Caltrans Public Legislative and Media Relations Office.
Great, thank you. And now I'm going to go down the list of others we have here. Steve Scabula.
Hi, everyone. It's Steve Skiwala with IBI Group, and I am the consultant project manager for the Central Mobility Hub, CMCP.
And Ted Anasis.
Hi, good afternoon or evening. Ted Anasis, manager in the Planning and Environmental Affairs Department at the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority.
Thanks, Ted. Amy Hayes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Hayes with the Old Town Planning Group.
Welcome. Amy Stark.
Hi, I'm a member of the Midway Planning Group.
Thanks for joining us. Andrea Schlageter.
Hi, I'm Andrea Schlageter, and I'm the chair of the Ocean Beach Planning Board.
Great. Oh, Bree, I forgot you as part of the team. Bree Robertoy.
Hi everyone, Bree Robertoy here. I am an outreach consultant for the project team.
Thanks. Kathy Kenton.
Hi, I'm Kathy Kenton. I'm the chair of the Midway Pacific Highway Community Planning Group.
Welcome. Dan Boy, I'm not sure if I pronounced your last name right. I apologize if I missed it.
No problem. It's Buey. Dan Buey with Brookfield Properties as part of the sports arena redevelopment.
Excellent. Welcome. Emmanuel Alforja.
Emmanuel Alforja, assistant engineer with the City of San Diego.
Welcome. Let's see. Jesse O'Sullivan.
Jesse O'Sullivan, Policy Counsel with Circulate San Diego.
Welcome. Jessica Jones.
Yes, hi, Jessica Jones with Brookfield Properties. Thanks for including us.
Thanks for being here. Mike Calandra.
Hi, Mike Calandra with Sandag Transportation Modeling.
Okay, let's see, who am I missing here? Patricia Fillet.
Hello, Patricia Fillet, member Old Town Community Planning Group.
Welcome. Stephen Schaefer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen Schaefer. I'm the principal economist at the Port of San Diego.
And Ted Lohman.
Hi, Ted Lohman, also with Brookfield Properties.
Thank you. If I missed anybody, Carlos, I'm going to get to you when we get to the interpretation slide. If I missed anybody, please raise your hand or just speak up and introduce yourself, but I think I got everyone. Oh, wait, hold on one second. We have 2 more attendees to move into the meeting. Kirsten, can you introduce yourself? Kirsten, I think you're muted. Kirsten Ukatel? Okay, Kirsten might not be able to hear me. And then Omar, are you in the meeting? Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Omar Tay. I am a senior engineer at Sandag. I'm also helping out the Central Mobility Hub and on the engineering side.
Great. And then Kirsten Ukatel, did we get any audio for you yet?
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't coming through before. I'm with Sandag working on the Central Mobility Hub and the Regional Plan EIR.
Great. All right, well, we have a good group here tonight. Thank you all for being here. We'll go ahead and jump right into the meeting. First, just a few virtual meeting guidelines. We are recording this meeting. We will be posting it to the project website afterwards, so if people want to review it later. If you haven't already, please type your name and organization in the Zoom display. We ask that everybody mute yourself if you're not speaking, just to avoid crosstalk, and you can avoid hearing my cats meowing in the background wanting their dinner. To be called upon to speak, we're going to have some times where we'll just be facilitating questions and answers. Since we have so many and I can't see all of you at one time, if you could use the raise hand feature so that I can see it on the control panel. And then you can share comments via the chat. We will be saving the chat so we can record those comments. And then finally, translated materials can be provided upon request, which then leads us to the next slide. Supporting Sandag's commitment to inclusion and equity. We are providing all public information materials in alternate languages and also providing simultaneous translation for public meetings. And so we will be doing simultaneous translation of this meeting in Spanish. Carlos Diaz, who I will introduce in a second, he will be our translator. If anybody does need translation, to access that, you will scroll down to the bottom to the Zoom controls and click this world icon, interpretation, and then select your language as Spanish. And we will be posting in a second a link to the PowerPoint presentation in Spanish that's translated to Spanish as well, if anyone needs to follow along. If you happen to be participating from a mobile app, instead of the interpretation icon, it will be an ellipsis, the 3 dots. So click that, then click interpretation, and then click Spanish. And then the last thing is, in some cases, not all the time, when we start the translation, sometimes people in the English room can lose audio. If that happens, click the interpretation button and then click English as your language, and you'll be back into the room. So I would like to introduce Carlos Diaz as our interpreter for today. And Carlos, if you could provide the instructions in Spanish, and then we will start the interpretation. Carlos, are you there?
Kristen, it said he began interpreting, so he can't be heard in the main room. But if people select the Spanish room, he can lead them through the instructions in Spanish.
Okay, and we do have the instructions in Spanish on the screen if anyone needs them. Okay, and we just had two folks join the meeting. Kota, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Kota Zeiser. I'm the District 2 and 3 community rep for Mayor Gloria.
Welcome. And then Maureen, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, Maureen Gardner with the City of San Diego in the Mobility Department. Sorry, I had trouble logging in.
Oh, well, we're glad you made it.
Glad to be here.
All right. So this is just a quick review of our agenda tonight. We want to update everybody. There's, as you all know, in the community, there's a lot going on out there right now. And so we want to update you on concurrent SANDAG efforts that are going on, what the status is, where we are in public review for some of these initiatives. So we'll have a few project status updates. And then we also want to hear from you. We would like to, we'll then turn it over to you, and I'll call on each one of the community reps to give a couple minutes update on anything going on in your community, things you may be hearing about the projects in the community, that kind of thing. We'll also, at this point, if there's any of the agency partners here who would like to give an update on things going on in their arena, that would be the time that we would take that as well. That we also wanted to review public input we've received to date, especially on the CMH and Connections CMCP. We have had one public workshop and are gearing up for our second, so we'll review what we've heard so far. And then we'd like to give you a preview of what we're going to be presenting at that second public workshop, and then get any questions or input or feedback that you'd like to share with us before we kick off that workshop next month. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Kohut, who will give us updates on both the 2021 regional plan and the Central Mobility Hub project. So Ryan, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Yes, so, you know, SANDAG is very excited to be on the verge of releasing the 2021 regional plan. We see this plan as a bold new vision for how we get to work, get home, and get to the places that we need to go here in the San Diego region. We also see this as an opportunity to take a more fair and equitable way to address longstanding transportation issues and problems, and to seek a cleaner, more sustainable future. Next slide, please. The plan is based upon 5 big moves. Complete corridors, you know, which will form the backbone of an intermodal transportation system, allowing choices for how one can get from one place to another. The second is transit lead, quality alternatives to automobiles, different ways of getting from where you need to go without using the automobile. The third is a flexible fleet that will provide those connections between transit options and that last mile between, you know, the end of that transit option and where you need to be. And then we need a next generation operating system that really provides the connectivity and the technology to make all of this work together. But what we're here to really concentrate on today is mobility hubs, places where people can come together, make the connections they need to make, and then move on to their destination of where they need to go. Next slide. So where are we right now with a regional plan? Well, back on May 17th and 21st, the SANDAG Board of Directors did did workshops that really outlined what's inside the transportation plan and took real hard questions and took input on you know, what should be a part of this plan. Later this week, on May 28th, SANDAG is going to be releasing the draft regional plan for public review. And so at that point, we're really going to be going out there trying to get comment from the public so we can understand, you know, what you think about this plan. And then through June and July, we'll be hosting a series of virtual open houses and public hearings where you can make that input. Later this summer, we'll then be issuing a draft environmental impact report for public review. And then in late 2021, we'll be asking the board of directors here at SANDAG to adopt and certify this plan. And for more information, if you just want to see more about what's in there, please look at our website at sdforward.com. Next slide, please. Last month, SANDAG issued a notice of preparation to start the CEQA process of really figuring out what of studying a central mobility hub. And right now, we're looking at 2 locations for the Central Mobility Hub. One is at the Navy's Old Town Campus site, and the other is at a site a little bit further to the south called the Intermodal Transportation Center. We're also looking at an extension of the existing trolley system to come from the Santa Fe Depot and connect to the airport. And so that's what we're looking at the Central Mobility Hub, is a place to bring in all those intermodal connections, both the automobile and transit, both the trolley, regional rail, NCTD coaster, Amtrak, buses, bring it all together and then provide that connection to the airport. And so these are the sites that we're studying where what might be a great place to put that mobility hub. We did a scoping meeting on May 11th to take public comment and to get ideas on what could be a part of that mobility hub. And that comment period extends through May 28th. So there's still time, and we still want to hear what you have to say about the Central Mobility Hub project. And even beyond that, we'd really ask that everyone take a look at our virtual engagement site. It's a social pinpoint site. You can see the link in this slide, and we'd really like to get any input that you may have into this very important public project. Next slide, please. And so, you know, when we're in the environmental process, you know, you may ask, well, what are we looking at? What are we trying to study and consider as we decide what is the best opportunity for Sandag or for the region for a central mobility hub? Well, on the slide, you can see all the different areas that we examine, from aesthetics and environmental factors, transportation impacts and improvements, the provision of public services, noise, how it may affect housing and population patterns, all the way into cultural resources and tribal resources. We're really just trying to figure out, you know, what our mobility hub project would do positively, and if there are any impacts, what are those, and how can we best mitigate them to make the project work for everyone. Next slide, please. This is a timeline of where we are right now and where we're going. You can see the notice of preparation that already went out in April. We've done that public scoping meeting back on May 11th. But we're still looking for public comment on what should go into this project. We're going to take that information and then we're going to do technical and engineering studies pretty much from this summer all the way to the fall of 22. We're going to be really getting in there and doing the detailed homework that it takes to understand what our project is and what it can do for people. And then what we hope to do is come back sometime in the winter of 22, maybe early 23, and show you what we've got and show you all the hard work that went into that and what we think this project really looks like. And then we put it back out in front of the public and take more public comment and review on that draft environmental document. And then hopefully sometime in the summer, fall of 23, we would ask our board to adopt that project, and we would have a real shovel-ready project ready to move forward and help the people of San Diego County. With that, I will hand it over to Danny V to tell us more about the CMCP.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Just a real quick update on this, and then we'll get into more detail later in the meeting here. But you know, just since the last time we were at this group, just these are some of the highlights that you know, we've done with the Central Mobility Hub and Connections CMCP. So I think many of you attended our first public workshop, which was back on March 11th. We had more than 200 attendees. And in addition to the virtual engagement site that Ryan mentioned, we also have one for the CMCP process. So this is the planning process and includes, you know, the surrounding areas. There's a corridor that's much wider than just the Central Mobility Hub facility itself. We're currently accepting comments on the Central Mobility Hub concepts that we've previously shared. We've got this mapping activity where we're collecting, you know, geographic locations of specific, you know, issues and concerns related to transportation. And then also our online survey is also on that website there. And then just coming up in a few weeks here, we have our second public workshop that's scheduled on June 7th. And I hope you'll all be able to attend that. And that focus of the second workshop will be on the transportation solutions throughout the entire study area, as I mentioned there. And as I mentioned, we'll get into more details on the CMCP shortly, but we'll have we'll pass it on to April DeJesus, who can share an update on the military resilience work that's happening.
Hi, thank you. So last June, SANDAG received a grant from the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation to add a strong resilience component to our comprehensive multimodal corridor plans, including Central Mobility Hub and South Bay to Sereno, and to establish a framework for data sharing with the Navy to support connections to and from Navy bases Coronado, Point Loma, and San Diego. The City of San Diego and Caltrans have been actively working with us as sub-recipients of this grant, and this is our first partnership with OLDCC, and we hope to continue future endeavors with this agency. This grant allows SANDAG and the Navy to expand upon our CMCP efforts by evaluating potential climate impacts to our transportation facilities critical to naval operations, and develop long-term resilience strategies to ensure the Navy is able to remain mission ready. Ensuring that effective transportation to and from our local Navy installations is critical to our region's quality of life, since the Navy is one of SANDAG's largest employers and also plays a significant role in our economy. Next slide. So this is our timeline for the project, and we are currently wrapping up the last phases of this effort and anticipate completing the final report next month. We've been working closely with the Navy to develop the framework for effective data sharing, and then the final deliverable for the resilience piece of this project will include vulnerability profiles that detail the impacts to transportation facilities listed on the previous the transportation facilities, and potential adaptation strategies that mitigate those impacts. And to the extent possible, we're hoping that this study will help inform some of the Central Mobility Hub and South Bay to Sereno alternatives in the CMCPs. And we're actively working and are proposing a phase 2 of this project to implement our data sharing framework and collect the data and integrate it into some of our planning efforts, and then also build upon some of the resilience strategies for a more focused feasibility analysis for transportation infrastructure improvements. We're continuing to provide monthly updates to our military working group, and if you'd like to stay informed on this project, our next military working group is scheduled for July 19th at 9 a.m.
Great, thank you, April. So now we would like to turn it over to you and hear from what's going on in your community, what we might be hearing about these projects in your community, and anything that you think SANDAG might benefit from knowing about things going on in your community that might somehow relate to any of these projects we've talked about. But before we jump into the community groups, I would like to ask Coda from the mayor's office if there's anything you'd like to say, update us on anything from the mayor's perspective or in districts 2 and 3.
I am all good on my end. Really the only update that we had was the Surplus Land Act, which I believe I've spoken with Kathy Kenton on. So in terms of real updates, nothing too much to add to this conversation.
Okay, thanks. Well, let's start with, let me also advance to some of the questions that I put here, and then I'll call on each of the community planning group reps, and then the organization reps, and then if there's anybody in the of our agency partners that wants to give an update on things that are going on, that would be helpful as well. So I have 3 questions up here just for you to think about in the updates you want to give us. If there's anything you want us to know about the concerns, questions, what people are saying about the projects, and then any other issues that you'd like to share. So I'll go ahead and start with Midway. So Kathy, would you like to give us a few minutes?
Sure. So obviously we're kind of the linchpin in all of this in terms of our location. We did hear last week from NAVWAR on the Old Town Revitalization draft EIS. We had at our meeting about a 1-hour presentation. I think it probably went pretty much as expected. I'm not in a position to share any specifics at this point because the planning group is just now forming a ad hoc committee to formulate our response. We have a little less than 60 days to do so. One formal meeting, we may have to hold some additional special meetings. Speaking for myself, I think I'm particularly concerned about the scale of the NAVWAR project and how it essentially in a 70-acre parcel becomes a second downtown. I will say that while some communities are like NIMBY and we don't want any change and we don't want anything to ever be different than it is now, that's not the Midway community. We're excited about change. We're excited about revitalization, but we're very concerned about the NAVWAR project, about the NAVWAR EIS and the potential for it. We're highly concerned about the Central Mobility Hub, which in one of the alternatives, I believe, one of the concerns that we've expressed before is the last thing we need is more traffic in our community, and the Central Mobility Hub just invites more traffic, more congestion, without regard to additional residential units. There was something in one of the alternatives that included the Central Mobility Hub about a 500 vehicle parking structure specifically for the hub, and yet Caltrans, or not Caltrans, I'm sorry, SANDAG, when we have conversations, tries to assure me, oh, this is about people getting out of cars, but it doesn't appear to be getting out of cars. It appears to be bringing more cars into Midway. So this is a big concern of ours. I don't know where we will come down on NAVWAR at this point. We're just starting our analysis and writing, and we'll be providing written recommendations. One of the biggest concerns that we have, and I guess one of the questions I have for SANDAG and the Central Mobility Hub team, is if that were to be built, if the Central Mobility Hub were to be built as preferred on the NAVWAR Old Town site, what is the approximate, what's the timeline? What's the date that you're looking at to break ground, subject obviously to all the EIRs and all of that, and then completion? The Navy is telling us 30 years for the NAVWAR revitalization to complete the project, and that, in my mind, is just untenable. That parcel and that area sits at the juncture of Barnett and Pacific Highway and the 5 and Midway Drive and Sports Arena Drive, and to disrupt and have major construction going on for 30 years is just going to be a nightmare for the community. And I'd like to know what the Navy, what SANDAG, how you expect the Midway community and the surrounding communities to have to live with that for 3 decades. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Ryan, did you want to address any of the issues with respect to what Kathy was asking about the Central Mobility Hub? There was the parking that she mentioned, as well as the timeline for the Central Mobility Hub.
Absolutely. And Kathy, thank you for bringing those issues up. I mean, we're aware that there are a lot of concerns in the community and adjacent communities. What SANDAG is really looking for is a solution for a central mobility hub. We're trying to tie together existing modes of transportation and then move them more efficiently to both to the airport and other points around the region. We really see our project as reducing traffic in the overall Midway area. We want to provide, new opportunities instead of using the same old, roads and corridors that people already use to move through Midway. We want to collect some of that and provide different alternatives. As far as parking, we're not really looking to include parking as part of the Central Mobility Hub. I do know that the Navy, however, in their EIS, their NEPA document, is in their alternatives, they specify a transit center. And while, we have been working with them to make that transit center a possibility for, the Central Mobility Hub to serve that function, that's kind of their idea for what they might do for their own transportation access issues. That's not exactly what we're trying to do with our Central Mobility Hub. We are separate and distinct projects. The Navy, that's a development project. We actually feel that our Central Mobility Hub would alleviate some of the impacts of that development and really providing better access in and off that site that wouldn't hit those same roads. As far as a timeline goes, we are looking to work through the environmental review process under CEQA and NEPA, and we're looking to get that environmental clearance sometime toward the end of 2023. As far as when the Central Mobility Hub project could be built, that would depend on which site is selected. If it's on the Navy site, then whatever we're doing would have to be integrated into their overall plans and timeline. If it's on the Intermodal Transportation Center site, then it would be really dependent upon where we found project funding and when we could get that going forward. But I think that's a little speculative, and we're going to work to nail down some of the details on that, but it's a process, and we want to keep talking to you and other community stakeholders and make sure that you can see all the way kind of where we are with things and those timelines. I don't know, did I get to everything, or?
Yes, thank you.
And we also have some more time later in the meeting where we can have some open discussion and comment. And we also will be sharing some more information about transportation solutions that are part of the corridor plan as well. So hopefully will give even more information. So before I move on to the next person, I did want to mention that Josh Coyne from Council District 2 joined us while we were waiting. So Josh, if you'd like to say hello or have anything you'd like to share with us, now would be a great time.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks, everyone. Apologies for being a few minutes late. I don't have too much to say. I'm here just to really be with you all and listen to the community tonight. Appreciate SANDAG again continuing to have these roundtable discussions with the community to keep things moving, no pun intended. So thank you very much, Kristen, for the time. Great to be with you all.
All right, thanks, Josh. Why don't we move on to Old Town now? Amy Hayes, will you be speaking? Do you want to share any input from Old Town?
Sure, I'm happy to chime in and share some concerns. I guess I want to note that I'm on the Old Town Planning Group. I'm a member, but I'm also with Save Our Heritage organization. So I have a couple of hats that I wear on a regular basis. So I know that at least speaking to the Navarre side, I know that heights and traffic overall are going to be an issue. I understand that SANDAG is trying to reduce traffic, but obviously if we're going to have buildings of that height, and we need to have a balance here. Another question is, I'd like to kind of parse out the public benefits with all of this. It seems that with the Navarre site, there is some additional parkland and stuff like that. I understand with some of those alternatives, we would be getting, a transit center, but what are the overall public benefits? Are there more than that? Can there be more that are worked into the project?
And you're speaking about the Navwar project or the
Well,
Sandvik project?
in general, wherever this mobility hub goes.
Okay.
In addition to the hub of mobility, are there additional public benefits, green space, outdoor space that can be provided somehow? And then I want to hone in also on the historical resources, and just note the proximity to Old Town and the breadth of significant historical resources that are both within the state park as well within Presidio, which is a National Historic Landmark. So I just want to put some emphasis on that specifically, in that this is a set of historical resources that are slightly different from some other areas of the city. And so some very special attention, I think, needs to be given to how any location for this mobility hub could be potentially impacting to the historical resources, but especially Old Town, especially the National Historical Landmarks. I mean, this is the birthplace of California. So I'll just leave it at that for now.
All right, thanks very much, Amy. Did we have a representative from Uptown Community in the participating tonight? I don't think we did, but just wanted to call out just in case.
Kristen Brer had a meeting, but was going to try to join us after, if possible.
Okay. Well, if he does join us, then we can maybe hear from him later in the meeting. I know Andrea from Ocean Beach is here. So Andrea, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, hi everyone. So we actually just had our transportation subcommittee the other night, and one of the big topics in relation to the mobility hub is, our concern about how we connect to the mobility hub and how transit and public transit will improve to our neighborhood. We're a pretty densely built out neighborhood, and our streets are very narrow. So we do want to try to keep as many cars out of the neighborhood for people who are coming in. So that's our big concern, that last mile connection, and what kind of what kind of thing, what kind of the spoken hub is going to look like. Because we would really like people to come up to maybe just the edge, Robb Field or Dusty Roads, get out of their transportation there and then walk or bike or take some other kind of smaller form of transportation into the neighborhood. So that's really what we're interested in seeing.
Okay.
And then also I noticed that I don't think anyone from Point Loma is here, but I also sit on the board of the Point Loma Association. And I will say on that side of the hill, people are most concerned about the development and the demolition of Navwar and what kind of maybe toxic chemicals that might bring up, and how that's going to be cleaned up moving forward with that development.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because I know we did reach out to the Peninsula Community Planning Board, but we didn't get it. I don't think they were able to send anybody today. So thank you for sharing the other side of the peninsula.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay. I think that might be all of our community reps. Let me look at my list here. Yeah, so Circulate San Diego. I apologize, I can't remember the name of the Circulate rep, but if you would like to share something, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, yeah, my name's Jesse O'Sullivan. I'm new here, so sorry, I don't remember. But our main area of concern so far has been the airport connector with the proposed project at the Navwar site, is that the people mover would end up going, it looks like, within 600 feet of the Middletown trolley station without making a connection. So any rider who wants to go from the airport downtown would have to go all the way up to the new mobility hub and then back down to downtown, which would add about 3 miles to their trip. And so I don't know what the option there is exactly. Maybe it's adding a connection at Middletown, or maybe it means doing one of the other proposals. But certainly an inefficient transit system discourages people from using that system. And so making sure that it's efficient and it's geometrically logical, I think, is really important.
Thank you. One thing I might suggest to you, since the comment period is still open for the notice of preparation for the Central Mobility Hub environmental process, it would probably be a good idea to submit that as a comment on the NOP And that's,
Yeah.
and you can do that via our website or sending an email before May 28th.
Yeah, we're planning on doing that.
Excellent, thank you. Is Andy here from the Bike Coalition? I know he RSVP'd, but I didn't see him in the room, so no Bike Coalition. How about Brookfield? I know we had lots of people from Brookfield.
Yeah, hi, this is Ted Lohman. I can speak on behalf of Brookfield. We don't have any project updates other than, as Coda mentioned earlier, the city's working with the state on Surplus Land Act. So we continue to communicate with city staff around that. The only other thing I'll add is that, we're anxious and excited to work with SANDAG as our project and the Central Mobility Hub project moves forward to look at ways in which we can incorporate aspects of our project that can enhance the success of the mobility hub and vice versa.
Great. Thank you, Ted. I know we have some agency partners here as well, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to share something. Ted from the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, I am told that you have a slide you'd like to share.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much.
And Ted, I don't have your slide. Oh, wait, there we go. Gia has it, so she can share it. Great.
Awesome. Thank you very much for letting me just give a very brief update on the San Diego International Airport's Airport Development Plan, or the new Terminal 1 as we are referring to it. It includes several key components that are depicted here, namely a replacement of the outdated Terminal 1 with a more modern and efficient 30-gate Terminal 1 that will enhance the customer experience for passengers arriving and departing San Diego International Airport. This new 30-gate Terminal 1 will be a linear concourse and will offer more gate seating, restaurants and shops, as well as additional security checkpoints with more security lanes. And that is depicted in the yellow area. And you can see the 30 gates and the associated aircraft actually will be constructed, the core with the new curb front and a new circulation system connecting to existing Terminal 2 will be constructed to the east of the existing Terminal 1, and then will extend back over Terminal 1 in a second phase. Some other key components include a 3-lane entry road, which will provide airport-bound traffic to exit from North Harbor Drive and move quickly onto a free flow onto the airport to the terminal curb front, avoiding and removing those vehicle trips from North Harbor Drive. And then most importantly, a designated transit area is also designated between the existing Terminal 2 and the new Terminal 1. It's the area depicted in blue. And this will provide a landing, a connection point for the transit system in connection to the Central Mobility Hub, or whatever best technology is determined to connect the airport to the region via rail. Thank you very much. Let me just mention, we have completed our state environmental review process, and we are presently going through and coordinating with the FAA on our federal environmental review process, and also coordinating with the California Coastal Commission on the Coastal Act review of these projects. And we anticipate to be completing both of those processes in the fall of this year.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ted. All right. Is anyone, let me share my screen again, get us back up to our presentation. Okay, we were, hold on, give me a second. There we were. So anyone from the port, Stephen Schaefer, did you have any updates that you wanted to share?
Hi, no updates. Just again, thanking SANDAG and Caltrans for all they're doing here with this project to try to really improve mobility around this area. The port is a strong supporter of those goals. We've been working with everyone here and want to continue to work with everyone here in whatever capacity we can to help really achieve, you know, the improvements to mobility that are at the heart of this project.
Thank you so much. And then anybody from the city, Maureen or anyone from the city, do you have any information you'd like to share or questions?
Thanks, Kristen. No, I think, excuse me, we've been coordinating with SANDAG and appreciate that coordination, and we'll continue to do so. I don't have anything to bring up.
Okay. And then there was one last community rep who joined us a little bit late. Brer, I noticed that you joined us. Is there anything from the Uptown community that you would like to share with us with respect to the recent projects that have been circulating out in the community, or anything going on in the community that SANDAG should know about?
Hi, yes. Sorry I was late. I did catch the tail end of it. And, you know, it's hard to comment on your presentation having not seen it, but I will say that there's been quite a bit of discussion in the community about parking counts that were published in the recent EIR report, I think it was.
Is this the Navy project EIS?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you are talking about that tonight or if those comments would be appropriate. I can share them if you want to hear them, or if it's for better for another day, let me know.
Yeah, we don't have the Navy here tonight, and so we aren't going to be talking about their project. They are having some public meetings, I believe, June 8th and June 23rd, and I can post their website in the chat, where you can go to their website and find out what's going on about their project, but we can't speak for them or answer questions about their project. So,
got it. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks for asking, though.
Okay, great. Well, with that, thank you all for sharing. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Danny to get us into kind of the meat of our agenda here with the CMH and Connections Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan.
Yeah, thanks,
Danny,
Kristen. So, thanks. Yeah. So, yeah, if we go to the next slide, as I mentioned previously, we get into a little bit more detail. But first, I just wanted to recap sort of the different phases of the Central Mobility Hub and Connections Corridor Plan, or CMCP, the corridor plan, we'll refer to it. So during that first phase, we looked specifically at the Central Mobility Hub site and looked at different design concepts, and those were the two different concepts at the Navy Old Town complex and the complex down at the site known as the ITC, Intermodal Transit Center, near Washington Street. Now we're transitioning over into the phase 2 of the corridor plan here, looking at the multimodal connections that link that Central Mobility Hub to the surrounding community. And we're looking at all sorts of transportation improvements and environmental improvements. And you can, on the map there, you can see the dark blue area, and that's the focus area of the corridor plan here. And so we're looking at and considering transportation improvements all within that dark blue area, but we also recognize that there's the transportation infrastructure has great relevance to the areas immediately adjacent in those areas of influence shown in light blue. And if we go to the next slide there. And so at the last workshop that we had back in March, we shared those 3 concepts for the Central Mobility Hub. And we talked about all the different transportation services and amenities that would be within those Central Mobility Hubs. So all the different rail lines, the heavy rail, light rail, the bus services that would be going in there, some of the new technology, talked about the pickup and drop off locations and that type of thing. And there's a couple different layouts, and we kind of showed how the passenger experience would be, the things, how people can transfer between modes, how people can walk and circulate through the entire Central Mobility Hub sites. And so we did have a discussion of sort of a survey, a non-scientific survey there of preferences of the the different concepts as well. And then also launched the social pinpoint map, which is an opportunity there to provide feedback on these concepts and as well as identify those issues. And go to the next slide. I think we got the map there. So this is just a summary of what we heard about those three concepts. So you know, obviously there were the ones, the quotes in the blue there are you know, specific quotes, but there was, you know, some common themes. You know, a lot of you know, a lot of comments about, you know, the Central Mobility Hub, you know, building being, you know, a great community space, a great public space, a place where people can, you know, gather and there'd be, you know, activities and things, you know, just to make it a great urban environment. Definitely have, you know, mixed use space. So, you know, really being sort of a catalyst to have nearby development that also supports transit and the connections. Obviously needs for lots of bike amenities, bike parking, bike hub, safe bikeways, and EV charging stations. There was some concerns raised about the long walking distance. The site is fairly large, so you know, there's concerns about minimizing those walking distances, as well as accommodating some of the, you know, freight and truck services into the site. You know, it wasn't conclusive, but there was a slight community preference of the three for the Navy OTC site concept 2, which stacked the airport transit connector, which provides that direct transit connection to the airport near the rail line, as opposed to near back highway. Go to the next slide there. So our next steps on the concept development there is to, you know, continue to make refinements to those sketches that we had, and really we want to be evaluating the proposed transportation solutions that we'll talk about shortly, and how they tie in specifically to each of those concepts. So there'll be slight modifications, you know, based on those transportation solutions that we're proposing. And then ultimately we'll do, you know, we'll compare the different concepts with a set of performance measures so that we can, you know, more clearly identify those potential benefits between those different concepts. I just wanted to pause here before we go into those transportation solutions. If there was any questions or comments just quickly on the things that we've talked about in the past.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised, Danny, so I think we can move on.
All right, so here's just a screenshot of our virtual engagement site this is the mapping tool that we've talked about. And I hope you've all gone on there and added some pins onto the map. You know, obviously you see a lot of bike and ped comments on there and a number of other comments, you know, kind of evenly spread throughout the Central Mobility Hub study area and area of influence as well. You can go to the next slide there. And this is just a summary of the total comments received so far. You know, obviously a lot of bike and pedestrian comments, and I think that's, you know, anybody that's walked or ridden their bike through large sections of this study area would, I think, agree with. And traffic and transit connections have also been raised as well, comments and concerns. So far on the online survey, we've got 167 responses and 32 comment forms. And, you know, I think at the end too, we'd also encourage you all to, you know, help spread the word about our social engagement site and drive these numbers up. And we'll have this open for a little while as well. Okay, so, you know, based on what we heard, I kind of summarized that just a little bit there, but, you know, there's a strong, you know, we heard this, you know, loud and clear about coastal rail trail, and, you know, anybody that's ridden their bike on Pacific Highway through the Barnett interchange would probably only do it once like I have. So, you know, it is a definite gap in the corridor. So, you know, things like the coastal rail trail connection are going to be a vital part of the Central Mobility Hub plan, corridor plan. You know, lots, you know, and it's not just, you know, on Pack Highway. There's a desire to have protected bikeways and protected intersections along many of those busy arterials connecting to that Central Mobility Hub. Obviously need for ped safety and new and improved transit connections, kind of building on, you know, the ideas in the regional plan. And just intersection upgrades all around, and you know, concerned with high vehicle speeds on a lot of the major arterial streets as well. Okay, next slide. So our objectives for our transportation solutions here are, you know, we want to improve access to modes and transportation options within that study area, and really it's beyond that study area. It's you know, we see the Central Mobility Hub as, you know, a regionally significant station that's going to have, you know, great connections all throughout the region and all throughout, you know, the country really, and internationally with the connections to the airport. We also, another priority there is, you know, increasing connectivity between the surrounding communities. As I think we all are aware, there's, you know, the I-5 freeway and the rail corridor kind of, you know, divides some communities there. So we're going to look at ways, you know, and some of the other arterials provide our you know, service barriers as well. So we need to look at how we can connect these different communities to the Central Mobility Hub. And we're also, you know, want to support and enhance all of the local projects and initiatives that are in, you know, other plans and your community plans. And, you know, there's, you know, different bike plans, there's different, you know, improvement plans, and, you know, we want to capture those and build upon them and make them all work together. So, I mean, we're trying to be inclusive of all the planning efforts that are happening within this corridor area. And then, of course, safety is an important focus there, especially for vulnerable groups, and making sure we're making all those accommodations. And then lastly, just we want to be able to be prepared for the deployment of some of those new technologies and new transportation options that are envisioned in SANDAG's regional plan that's you know, just being released right now for draft. Go to the next slide. So we take all these, you know, concerns based on, you know, the public comments and the map tool, and you know, looking at, you know, the different plans and things, and we have all of these sort of, you know, issues and concerns related to transportation, and how do we address those concerns is into these strategies, these 5 strategies. And you know, many of these concerns, such as, you know, safety or you know, removing barriers, actually applies to pretty much every one of these strategies. But for the purpose of the corridor plan here, we broke it down into these 5 strategies. And so next we'll jump into these strategies and go a little bit more detail and go from there. So I'll take the first one here, which is the active transportation strategies. Obviously generated the most comments so far. Really there's, you know, an emphasis and desire to increase comfort for riders of all ages and abilities. And, you know, we can't do that with, you know, a bike lane that disappears as you approach an intersection on, you know, on a 6-lane arterial street. That's just not going to cut it. So we've got to really focus on, you know, the Class 1 multi-use paths, and as well as the Class 4 protected bikeways. So, you know, bikeway that's protected from traffic and at intersections as well. So we're definitely looking at the, you know, the existing network, and obviously there are a lot of gaps, especially real close to the Central Mobility Hub sites that are under consideration. And so we want to close all those gaps and make those new connections, especially for you know, people that are walking or riding bikes or scooting, you know, or skateboarding, any of the active transportation modes. We want to be able to accommodate that and encourage that so that people can make these trips, you know, in these active transportation modes. And then lastly here, just, you know, it's not, you know, just 1 or 2 bikeways in this study areas is not enough. We need to have a dense and interconnected network of these safe bikeways with lots of pedestrian connections. We've got a lot of really big blocks. We've got a lot of really big streets. So we need to make sure we have lots of opportunities for people to ride their bike or walk safely and without having to go out of direction. And next, I'm going to pass it to Nicola Bernard, who talk about the freeway strategies.
Hello again. So freeway strategies include several things. Managed lanes, which are a freeway lane separated from general purpose lanes that can be dedicated to specific uses, which respond to changing conditions on the road. These lanes can be for high occupancy vehicles, similar to the ones currently further north on I-5. High occupancy toll lanes, also known as express lanes, such as those along the Interstate 15 corridor. And these offer priority access to people using transit, carpools, or van pooling. But people driving alone can access these lanes for a fee. Then there are also transit lanes, which restrict use to buses, taxis, and other vehicles carrying multiple occupants. And managed lanes can also be used in conjunction with direct access ramps, or DARs. And a DAR is a ramp that allows direct access from a managed lane for buses, carpools, van pools, and motorcycles to directly access the high occupancy vehicle lanes in the center of the freeway. And when paired with technology, these strategies can help move more people, reduce traffic congestion, and increase transit ridership. And additional strategies which are also being considered to be included in this corridor plan are adding and or upgrading freeway ramps, as well as improving safety for people walking and riding bikes when crossing these ramps and navigating through interchanges along local roadways. These strategies will facilitate access to and from the Central Mobility Hub, as well as along the corridor. Now I'll turn it over to Steve to discuss the transit strategy.
Thanks, Nicola. So there's 3 basic elements to the transit strategy. One is a further building out of the next gen rapid network. So this is basically bus rapid transit as it's come to be known, that exists today on I-15 and coming out of the South Bay and several other corridors. So this is basically using rubber tired vehicles, buses, to provide the same level of service as light rail or trolley, and having a network of dedicated lanes and signal priority to really get the speed and reliability of these services up. So in our study area, we're looking at 2 corridors, one that starts at Naval Base Point Loma at the gates and runs up Rosecrans, serves the Central Mobility Hub, whether that's at the Navy's site at the Old Town campus or at the ITC site at Washington, and then continues northeast and connects this area to Kearney Mesa and other parts to sort of the northeast of us. The other one starts at Ocean Beach and uses Point Loma, West Point Loma Boulevard and Sports Arena to again reach the Central Mobility Hubs at either location, and then continues to the east along Washington up to Uptown and beyond into Central San Diego. So 2 key corridors, and we're looking at the feasibility of providing dedicated lanes as much as possible on those arterial corridors. And that's item number 2, to dedicated transit lanes. Beyond that, there is an emerging technology that is being, it's called Transit Leap, and it's commuter rail in the sense that it's meant for longer distance travel throughout the region. Grade separated, most likely electrically powered, and it does sort of include the trolley service into it, but really starts to develop into an almost new overlay network that allow people from this area to travel up north. There are 2 lines again are planned, one in a kind of a north-south direction that will provide connections up along the coast, and then an east-west connection to go into central San Diego as well. And all of those would serve the central mobility hub. So from there, you can ride just about anywhere in the county. The third item, and it's part of that transit loop network, is the direct connection from the central mobility hub to the airport. Again, technology is to be determined. It could be, an automated people mover type system, which is common in and around the airports. Could be other technologies, but the point is, from the central mobility hub, there would be a direct connection to the airport. And then the next item gets into mobility hubs and flexible fleets. Now, of course, we have the central mobility hub, but it doesn't end there. In order for the mobility hub function to actually work, you also need sort of satellite hubs in the neighborhoods and even at major stops on the transit network. And again, these are just places where you can, get off of transit and be able to pick up your personal mobility mode of choice, whether it's renting a bike or scooter or whatever, or hopping on what we're calling flexible fleet, which is small sort of shuttle circulator systems. So those are planned for throughout the study area, but really focused on our two next-gen rapid corridors along Sports Arena, along Rosecrans. And next slide. And finally, this term, the complete corridors, really ties together a lot of what we've been talking about, and that's really building on the groundwork already laid by the Midway Community Plan update, which is to look at key corridors in our study area, particularly Pacific Highway, and look at ways that they can evolve over time to be, rather than purely high-speed auto-oriented streets. They will continue to carry automobiles, of course. But the vision is to add dedicated transit lanes in the corridor, and also high quality, safe, efficient bike and pedestrian connections as well. So there, again, we're looking at the key arterials that I just mentioned: Pacific Highway, Rosecrans, Sports Arena, as well as some of the connections in and around the two central mobility hub sites themselves. So Hancock, Enterprise, Kurtz, starting to transform these streets into true multimodal streets, where every mode has its fair share of space on the street and can traverse quickly and safely in and around the community.
Thank you, Steve. So we are now just doing a time check. We've got about 20 minutes left in the time that we have here today. And so I wanted to open it up to the group. If there's any questions, input, comment about anything we've talked about tonight, but in particular, the corridor plan strategies that we've talked about. We are preparing for the next second public workshop on June 7th, where we'll have even more detail on these strategies to share. So if there's any input you have to us on, the best questions that we should be asking the public for input to help us get some really actionable outreach, that would be helpful as well. So I will turn it over to you, and I would just ask, since I can't see everybody at the same time on this, if you could use your raise hand function, and then I can call on you. None so far. Oh, there's one. Andrea.
Okay, hi, thank you. I want to say, and I think what should really be emphasized, or at least asked during the public workshop, is what will get people to switch from car transportation to public transportation. Because every time I hear, investment in public transportation brought up, I always, hear the naysayers say, oh, I'll never get rid of my car, or I'll never take the bus. So I was excited to hear that you guys are considering that technologically more advanced buses, or just different looking buses. And I think that's really what it's going to take to get people out of their cars and into these things, and finding something to move people around that doesn't look like the traditional bus. I think getting people to switch is definitely going to take a lot more than just making it affordable and accessible. I think, I think it has to be a little sexy too, so that's what I would ask at the next community forum.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Patricia Fillet, you had your hand up.
Yes. I just wanted to echo back from Amy Hayes' points that she brought up early on for the community planning group's participation. And I think, as other people may have mentioned, boy, these projects are just moving so fast, and it just seems like where's all the time. So I can't speak collectively for our group because we haven't discussed this yet as an agenda item. And our next planned community meeting is June 12th. So I'm just thinking, is there a way to, if we're collectively speaking for a community planning group, how can we do that if some of the workshops are prior to an agenda item for that particular community planning group? And then second, just to go back over some of those points from Amy, because Old Town, yes, part of District 3, but because of so much of the density that we're hearing about, traffic from, car traffic, foot traffic, and density from housing, it just seems that it's coming in from all directions. And so part of the transportation issue questions that I have, and I do have 3 pages to submit for the group to be included as part of that review. Just going back onto some of the surface streets that were expected to receive some of that flow through from Congress Street, San Diego Avenue, which is Historic 101 on the southern portion. And then Pacific Highway, the roundabout through the MCRD, Witherby streets. So these are all older streets, of course, but all of that traffic coming in that's a very huge part, if any community is concerned, District 2, Midway, District 3, Old Town. So I do have more to say, but you've given us other dates to embrace, to look forward to the comment period. But maybe the comment period for closing, which is May 28th, is that too soon?
And the May 28th, just to clarify, that's for the Central Mobility Hub project, and that's the kickoff of the environmental process. And so that will start SANDAG working on the EIR, and then once the environmental impact report is in draft form, that will again come back to the public for another review period when that happens. That will be a ways off, though. Ryan could probably correct me on the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, beginning our technical studies this summer. I guess what I would say is, if your group or anyone else has comments or questions or, wants to be a part of the process, send us something, send us a letter saying that, you're going to be meeting on, date X in June, and you want to be able to provide comments then. We're not looking to slam the door on anybody. If you have meaningful things to contribute, we have an open door and we want to hear about it. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Do I have any other hands raised? Jesse.
Yeah, this is Jesse from Circulate San Diego. Really encouraged to see the emphasis on active transportation and on transit. Definitely encouraged to hear about making the bike lanes a network, not just sort of the individual pieces we have now that have problems connecting to each other. And, in general, very positive about the direction that SANDAG is taking in terms of this. And then the only concern that I have is the one that I voiced before about making sure that it's the airport connector is done efficiently. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Any others? Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so I will move on to public engagement opportunities and turn this over to Gia Balash.
Great, thank you, Kristen. Well, we simply want to remind you about all of the ways that you can continue to engage and learn more about these projects. So we've covered some of these dates actually in the last few minutes, but just to reiterate, that 2021 regional plan, which is so critical to SANDAG's work and our vision for the future of the region. We are going to be releasing that this Friday, and there are going to be public workshops in June as well as public hearings in July. And that comment period will conclude on July 30th. And you can read the plan and learn more at sdforward.com. For the Central Mobility Hub, as Ryan just explained, the comment period does conclude on May 28th, but that is not a hard cutoff date. So please do let us know if you'd like to submit any comments for the environmental review beyond that date, and we can certainly accommodate. And you can continue to learn more about that project and provide feedback through their social engagement site, which is listed there for you, sandag.mysocialpinpoint.com/Central Mobility Hub. And then lastly, as we discussed today, the CMH and Connections CMCP, that Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan, is well underway, and our next public workshop will take place on Monday, June 7th. We did send an e-blast with information on that meeting just this afternoon, and I'll be following up to provide additional flyers in English and Spanish to each of you in the hope that you might be able to distribute those to your communities. We're really hoping to have everyone join us for this public workshop to go over those transportation solutions that Danny, Nicola, and Steve went over today in more detail. And, of course, that helps us get more feedback from the community to ensure that this corridor plan is something that really does serve the region and the communities it touches directly. And you can continue to leave comments on our interactive map as well as our survey on our website. And there was a QR code on that last page.
Okay, I'm going to go back.
Just in case you want to scan it. There you go. Thanks, Kristen. And then with that, we just want to thank everyone for joining us. We really appreciate having you here with us, especially for a discussion like this, where we're able to really just open the floor and have these candid conversations. It's so meaningful to us and really allows us to, get that really critical insight into what your communities are thinking, what their concerns are. So we thank you for taking the time out of your evening. All of our contact information is on this slide before you, including Danny and Nicola's information. Again, Danny and Nicola are the project managers for the Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan. And once again, we thank you for being here with us. So enjoy your evenings, everyone.
Thank you.